Today I'm going to be showing you what you need to know about asbestos before you start renovating. Now, what we do know is that asbestos is a deadly material, and with 1 in 3 Aussie homes containing it, it's more important than ever to know how to deal with it properly. Asbestos was so popular back in the day. In fact, it was the hottest thing since sliced bread. Tradies loved working with it because it was really cheap to buy, it was durable, it was waterproof, it was easy to cut, and then decades later, we found out it was a potentially fatal building material. It was so popular that it was used in over 3,000 building and home decoration products. So when you think of asbestos, please don't think it's just fibro. Asbestos could be present in any home built or renovated before 1990. That includes brick, timber framed, weatherboard, plastic cladded houses, fibro homes, apartments, garages, outdoor toilets and sheds. First of all, jump on asbestosawareness.com.au website, because that website has really great resources to bring you up to speed very quickly. It also contains a residential property checklist to help you identify it in your home. Okay, Matt, so yourself and your wife, you've got a couple of little kiddies, are thinking about buying this unrenovated house. It looks like it was built probably around late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
You have a very personal story about asbestos.
Yeah, we lost Mum 10 years ago to asbestos cancer, mesothelioma, and she was a DIY renovator through the 80s, 70s and 80s with Dad, and she also worked renovating pubs when she was much younger as well, all that would have contained asbestos.
The sad part about all of this is not only has she missed things like your weddings and those really important family occasions, her death was totally preventable. All right, so the asbestos inspector is going to be here pretty shortly. It'll be really interesting to see what he says. This wall here may or may not be, that's the hard thing, we don't know, so that needs to be tested. This is a decorative chipboard panel, so that wouldn't be asbestos, but you know what? The wall behind it could be. Even this old fluoro light would be the first thing you rip out, right? Electrician can't come in and just rip that down willy-nilly, because being an asbestos ceiling, those fibres can become airborne. And what we don't know right now, whether it takes one fibre or numerous fibres to be inhaled to contract diseases like mesothelioma, of which there is no cure. Most people would assume this isn't a fibro house. You and I know it probably is. Well, it is. Could be asbestos behind the cladding.
Yeah.
The eaves are 100% asbestos, as a lot of Australian houses are. So I can see there some old fibro sheets laying around. They've got that dimpled sort of texture, which is a dead giveaway. And here, so we've got asbestos probably sprayed on this sort of brick wall here as well.
Okay.
Let's find out what's involved and what to expect with an asbestos inspection.
So a professional would come out and assess the building, starting in the kitchen and then working their way around the house, ensuring they're checking all the building materials to see if there is any suspect material in there. If they suspect that there is asbestos within a building material, they'll take a sample carefully and then send that to a lab for analysis. So turnaround is around 1 to 2 days. It can be expedited if you need to get that report turned around quicker.
Now, I know a lot of people will be really curious, cost to get an asbestos inspection. What are people roughly looking at?
Typically you'll be looking at around about $600 to $1,500 for a typical house.
Yep.
Now if that's a larger house or in a different location, that may change. We want to make sure that we're removing asbestos so we're not removing the other materials at the same time.
So where can people typically find it internally?
So internally you'd be looking at bathrooms, kitchen, laundries, wet areas, typically the walls and ceilings.
Yeah.
Also need to be aware that it was in floor coverings as well.
Floor coverings being what? Carpet, vinyl floor tiles, old lino?
So it could be in the vinyl tile itself, it could be in the glue, it could also be in the paper backing of that vinyl sheeting that you might uncover in the kitchen or the laundry.
And what about carpet?
So carpet, it may be within the underlay. It's not very common, but we need to be aware that it might be in there, typically because they use the old Hessian bags as underlay within houses. You can also find it as spray insulation in roof cavities, as well as underfloor in packers.
In terms of asbestos removal, there's a lot of cowboys in this industry. Some homeowners will go and get asbestos removed, thinking they're using professionals, and then we've seen the news reports where suddenly a truckload of asbestos is dumped. So to avoid all of that sort of stuff happening, what do homeowners need to look for in terms of appointing a licensed asbestos remover?
They need to ensure the contractor, the actual company, has a licence.
If you're renovating on a tight budget, like so many Australians are these days, you might be tempted to remove asbestos yourself. Don't. While in some states it's legal for property owners to remove up to 10 square metres of asbestos themselves, we strongly recommend against it. You've got to remember, you're dealing with a deadly material, so it's definitely a job best left to the pros. The smartest thing to do is just factor the cost into your renovation budget. Have a think about this. What is the cost of your own life or the cost of a life of a loved one?
So our licensed asbestos assessor or our competent person will go through and visibly inspect each area of the removal and ensure that there's no residue remaining on the timber members, for instance, there's no debris or dust on the ground surface, and ensuring the transit route where they're taking the waste from the removal area out to their trucks is nice and clean. And that ultimately allows you that confidence that your trades can go in there and not be exposed to asbestos when they're doing their work.
Okay, let me quickly recap. So these are the 4 key steps. Number 1, jump on asbestosawareness.com.au. Number 2, if you suspect your property may have asbestos, get an asbestos report done. Number 3, if your property does have asbestos, always use licensed asbestos removers to deal with it properly. And number 4, factor the cost of the asbestos report and asbestos removal into your renovation budget, ideally before you buy the property.